Policy implementation is very important subject in public policy studies. The success and failure of public policies actually depends on the way policies are implemented, and the policy implementation also reflect a state's general attitude towards citizens' participation, democracy, and accountability, and many other related indicators. If we look at the structure of implementation, policy implementation during the British Empire in India, the first remarkable feature of policy implementation is that there was a total separation of policy making and its implementation. Policy would generally be made by the senior officers in India or in the United Kingdom, and it will be implemented by either the district officers or street level bureaucrats, like very um, the people who used to work in subordinate positions. For example, the revenue policy would generally be made by the senior civil servants in India, but it will be implemented by the deputy commissioners, assistant commissioners, but most importantly by tehsildars and naib tehsildars and patwaris. So policy implementation structure also had no say in policy making and policy change. They were just required to implement what was decided by the senior civil servants. So this separation of policy making and implementation had its particular uh, implications for bureaucratic structure. If you don't allow the policy implementers to have a say in policy making or policy change, it's difficult to make good policies or to incorporate feedback into the policies generally. And similarly, it was true for education policy also. The senior civil servants and educationists would make education policy in a centralized way, and the teachers would just implement it. They had no role in deciding what to teach, how to teach, and when to teach, and how to evaluate students. They would just act as implementers of the textbooks and curriculum decided by the senior civil servants and educationists in educational bureaucracy. So this separation of policy making and policy implementation was a highly peculiar characteristic of policy making and implementation in British India, and many of its features continue up until now. The second very important feature of implementation was that the implementation structure was highly hierarchical, and there were little chance that people working at the lowest level of implementation would have any say in changing the implementation style of the public policies. And most of the lower level officials like teachers, like health workers, patwaris, naib tehsildars, police officers, and other state officials, they were just required to follow the instructions and not question the policy implementation style of the senior level bureaucracy. Although civilian bureaucracy was in charge of the implementation, but it would implement these policies in consultation with or with the help from the local mediators. Now, local mediators were the local influentials, landlords, feudals, or businessmen, or other people who had influence in the society. And this also had peculiar implications for implementation and impact for society, because if a state implements its policies through the local mediators, the state does not establish a direct relationship with its people. As a result, people cannot know that state. So this was very particular about British India, that most of the people would not know where a state actually is because most of the time they would interact with the state through the local mediators. If they have to go to a police station, they would find a local influential to go with them. So this implementation style of British India continues in many ways up until now.